is just fantastic. Captain's log, subject 220504.4. May the 4th be with you? May the 4th be with you? Is this meant to be a mockery of lisps? If not, it really should be. Should we now perhaps set up some more national days to mock others? Can we perhaps start with the awareness months, and then go to the international days and move on from there? If you don't know who Dave Chappelle is, chances are you live either under a rock or you've never actually been on the internet. If that's the case, and you are brand spanking new, there's a button called subscribe underneath the video you see, yes, with a bell next to it. Click both of them, it's free, and it really helps this channel. Thank you. Dave Chappelle is a comedian who, I will admit, for the longest time I never found particularly funny. He is a man, though, that can be argued to have principle because he left Hollywood because he was done with their hypocrisy, instead favouring specials on Netflix. Specials that have garnered a lot of attention, and in turn have been somewhat beneficial to both parties, unlike shows produced by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that have already been cancelled for being shite. That's not to say Chappelle's are good, by the way. His stand-up specials get a lot of negative attention. Whether you agree or disagree with him, certainly when it comes to trans individuals or community as a whole, I don't really care actually. But rather interestingly, that is where our discussion is going to go today. Yesterday, on my second channel, A Megon 2 Electric Boogaloo, linked in the pinned comment down below, go subscribe. I do make videos over there as well, yes. I made a video about the acceptable consequences for comedy, using Jack Whitehall as a basis because a recent article he discussed the consequences of comedians when they tell jokes now because of what Will Smith did. And yes, there's context for why Will did it. Fantastic, thank you. I really don't care. You don't get up on stage and smack another person, alright? That is the overarching point. Go watch the video though if you don't mind and smash the like on it as well. Again, it helps that channel too. What makes this all fascinating now is Dave Chappelle was trending this morning, which is why I've also postponed the Amber Heard Johnny Depp second week of the trial. Yeah, next week now, sorry folks. Because he is also now a victim of this as well. Some of the jokes that Dave Chappelle tells do rub people up the wrong way. Many believe because he is black, he would surely be more left-leaning, and by extension be in unison with those that are vastly more vocal that are on the left. But he's decided, no fam, and he has been telling jokes that have gotten him, well, as I earlier mentioned, bad press. Although a very valid point can now be made that there is no such thing as bad press. If you are driving attention to someone, they benefit from it. It is why Dave Chappelle makes tens of millions for those stand-up specials. There is money to be made in causing offense. Causing offense is not an offense. And while I am fully aware of hate crime and therefore my original point there is null and void, it really shouldn't be, should it? Come on. It's a bleeding comedy show. The point is to make the majority laugh. And that is what Dave Chappelle has done. Controversy does help. It always has helped. People love controversy. People love it when somebody stands up against others who are, let's say, irritating beyond reckoning. The kind of irritation like having a splinter buried in your hand and you can't remove it because if you do, well, it's going to hurt. So you just push your hand against the table and dig it in further, hoping it finds its way out the other side. That is them. And you know I'm right. And I do have a splinter still. It's quite irritating. So I guess not, I've bleached on for long enough. Here's the clip of Dave Chappelle being attacked on stage. With additional context, there's a little more after. I'm going to play as much of it as I can.
Pop history. I am going to kill that man.
The event that Dave Chappelle was performing at is called Netflix is a Joke. As you saw, a man charged onto the stage, tackled Dave Chappelle before running behind the curtain and getting blitzkrieged by Dave's own security, who absolutely wailed on him, well, until this.
Pretty good.
Are arms supposed to bend that way? Other well-known names that were in attendance include Jamie Foxx, who had actually rushed on stage along with security to detain the attacker. Jamie Foxx himself, though, thought that that was all a part of the show.
Whenever you're in trouble, Jamie Foxx would show up in the sheriff's hat. I thought that was part of the show. I don't know what the f*** is. I grabbed the back of his head. His hair was spongy. Absorbent. Listen, I just want to say, man, I've had an incredible time. This man is an absolute genius. We got to make sure we protect him at all times, man. This is what it's about. For every comedian that comes out here, man.
So he didn't know what to do, which is a damning statement of how comedy is perceived, because you go to it for entertainment. If someone gets jumped during the show, you might think it's a part of the act. And I could get it, although what you've done here to the dear delightful person with the wonky arm is again give Dave Chappelle even more attention, which can now be absolutely spun in his favour. Why? Because while you may be up on stage because you disagree with something he believes in, you used physical violence and you were carrying weapons to do it. Yes, it is believed you had a knife and a gun. Wow, you came prepared. Jamie Foxx wore a sheriff's hat. That's all he had. And yeah, we know who the winner there was. Some interesting responses I saw on Twitter. I'm going to start with Jimmy Carr, who also had a Netflix special, got a lot of heat yet again, but this time because he mocked the gypsies, and of course you can't touch them. The Hollywood Bowl show with the legendary Dave Chappelle was crazy. Just happy everyone's okay. The earlier clip you saw of the suspect being taken away on the ambulance came from Nuff Said NY, but my personal favourite, Ricky Berwick. I tried giving Dave Chappelle a surprise hug. Worst Make-A-Wish ever, honestly. F for Ricky Berwick, the now claimed suspect. Earlier during that same Netflix as a Joke festival, Chris Rock had performed. He had actually come onto the stage and joked, "Was that Will Smith?" Based on how pathetic that spear was, I thought it was Goldberg. But that's just me. And much like with the injuries that guy sustained, which I don't condone either, he sold them like Goldberg too. Bill, was it you? Are you the suspect? Now, Dave did joke afterwards that the attacker was a trans man, which got everyone in the audience laughing. Undoubtedly, that is what people are going to latch on to now and continue using to declare Dave Chappelle transphobic. Again though, when someone says something controversial, who actually benefits from it? In this context, the answer is Dave Chappelle. You may disagree with his stance on individual rights or trans people as a whole, or the arguments concerning gender and the arguments concerning biological sex, but you do not need to resort to using your hands, your body, or a deadly weapon, which may well be your hands and body if you're trained, to get your point across. And based on the fact you chose to do that at the end of his set, you were either enjoying it too much or you thought, oh well, this is the only window I'm going to get now because I've sat here laughing at the rest of his set. While I wish the attacker a speedy recovery, which is undoubtedly going to be slightly hampered by that wonky arm, I do hope a lesson has been learned, not by that, but by how Dave responded to you attacking in the first place.
Everybody compose yourselves. I've been doing this 35 years. I just stomped the backstage. Always wanted to do that.
I know some people are going to call what has transpired karma of some variety, and there is certainly a point and argument that can be made in that favour. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think about what has happened. Do you think the person was right to attack Dave? Do you think Dave's response was right? I'm of course intrigued, and yes, I might seem like I'm a fence sitter on this one, but I will state as a final point, and it's possible I've said this many times before, if you are a performer of some kind or you're in your occupation and your job is not to be assaulted on a daily basis or at all in the first place, you should not be made to feel like there's a possibility you are going to be assaulted by somebody. And if you have to assault someone to get your point across, chances are you're not smart enough to make your point without resorting to violence. There's a word for it. If you have to use violence, starts with F. Oh, what is it?